Hello, chat. Good evening. It is Thursday night. Oh, wow. Yeah, my hair's laying bad in the back. I get a haircut next week, so I'll take care of that. But anyways, welcome. Welcome to the Thursday show. And God, a lot to talk about tonight. A lot to talk about tonight, guys. Hope you're ready to get into some fun stuff here. Like I said, I think there's a lot of different topics. And I some of it will be doom pilly. I'm sorry, it will be. Some of it will be funny. My audio is echoing. It's echoing. Hold on. Hello. Is it still echoing? I don't see where else it's coming through. Hold on. Hello. No, I don't hear it coming through anywhere else, chat. I'm sorry if it's echoing. Okay. Well, somebody said there was an echo. Oh. All right, guys, and we'll get moving here. Welcome, guys. My name's Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I'm an attorney out in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And we are going to get started in the Thursday show because it's Thursday. And yeah, it's been a good week overall. I think it's been a busy week, but we had court today. We had a client, had two separate cases. We went to had a bench trial on. And one of them we got the 2-word verdict. That was good. It was a good day. We got a not guilty. The other one was a guilty, but we kind of thought that one was going to be a guilty anyway. But once you're in that spot, I guess you got to run them both. So we did that. I had a guy. He got sentenced this afternoon. We were. It was really good. It was a really good. Even though he got sentenced, the judge pretty much was like, I pretty much, you did what you had to do, and I'm not mad at you for that, and gave him a minimal fine, no probation. So that's going to be good. He's going to appeal, so I think he's got a good shot at his appeal going forward. So we'll keep that in mind, and hopefully I can come back to you in a couple months and say, hey, we did some good work here. We'll see what happens, though. We'll see what happens. Panzer Dude says Sean L. Well, hey, only kind of half an L. We only got half of an L. We went 1 for 2 today, so it counts. It counts. Oh. What is with the echo? I don't know. Some people are saying I have it. Some people are saying I don't. So I don't know. I don't know. I hear an echo beep, but I do the what's this called? Where my headphones monitor. So I'm used to it. I'm used to it. Am I gonna help Juror save Ohio? I'm trying to. I know I heard about him and PPP talk about meat and ham sandwiches. I think I could do more good running around behind the scenes, and I'm trying to do that right now than I would running for office. So, yeah, that's my game plan there. I am a little pissed off. PPP, that fucking hoser, accusing me of eating hand sandwiches. That son of a bitch. That son of a bitch. Who does he think he is? Spudgud says, have you ever had a case where you've gone, holy fuck, how do we win that? Yeah, I've had that happen more than once. Not very common. But yes, I've been, we've gone into it and we, there's nothing we could do. So we got to send it. And by the time we get done, I'm like, that was not what I expected at all. And that's usually because things break your way at the last minute or a witness doesn't show up. But it's usually more of like the witness that they put up there, the evidence they try to offer, the prosecutor tries to offer, doesn't work. And you're like, all right, well, hey, it worked out. But not always. Not always. Not always. It's called trolling. Not when you're talking about ham sandwiches. Not about fucking ham sandwiches. Any other sandwich, I get it. But ham sandwiches. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. All right, guys. So let's get started here. We got a couple of super chats we got to read too. EDW Raptor for $5 saying, happy heavenly birthday to Sean's son, Trayvon Martin. Is this his like actual birthday? Because I know that I seen it because this is about the time of the year where George Zimmerman had to put him down. But yes, thank you, EDW. You know, he went up to drink all that Arizona watermelon fruit drink, as they said, that Arizona fruit drink. They didn't want to say it was watermelon at the trial. If you guys don't know that, that was a funny thing. The prosecutors went out of their way to avoid saying it was a watermelon flavored drink, and it was pretty damn funny. And then Spud Gun for £5 sterling, the king sterling. And he says, screw you. I'm not buying into your goal, fat man. Oh, and happy birthday. Oh, Chad, that's so funny. That is so funny. And then chat, we coming in out of nowhere for Ted subs is potentially criminal for Ted subs. Let's go tonight, chat. Let's get started. It's about 5 minutes in. We got a nice number of people here. It's time to get this going. We are going to start out with something where, yes, yes, that guy potentially criminal is a whale. It's the Whale Mary. We're doing the Whale Mary at the start. Oh, there we go. All right, guys. So let's get started with this. This is, yes, Stephen Cooper for $5. Saint Trayvon of the Blessed Hoodie. Yes, him and Saint George of Fentanyl, Saint Fentanyl Floyd. All right, let's get started. Guys, this is something I am working on getting the documents from the reporter who has them. I reached out to him, Benjamin Ryan. He does some stuff, does a bunch of different things out there in the press. He's on Twitter. He's been covering a lot of these child gender transition issues. If you guys want to give him a follow, you may not agree with any other thing he talks about, but he does a very good job of covering this stuff. He's doesn't seem to have a problem with me going forward. I reached out to him. But this is him right here, Benjamin Ryan. He's reported at New York Times, NBC News, Washington Post, The Atlantic, everywhere. On his Substack, he's talked about it. There is a massive, massive change that has just happened. A woman named Fox Varian is 22 now. When she was a teenager, she thought, she might be a boy. Well, as the case went on, she had medical providers who didn't do a very good job of caring for her. Her plastic surgeon that was dealing with her and the psychiatrist that worked with her really kind of just gave her the once over. And more or less, they gave her a mastectomy, a complete mastectomy. And that was when Fox, which is what she goes by now, gone by a bunch of different names. Obviously you can't undo that. You can't undo that. And eventually Fox detransitioned from being a boy and went back to being a woman. And Fox went ahead and sued the medical providers because they didn't address her mental health issues. They just said, here you go. Go ahead. Let's chop those titties off. And it's the fears we have because remember, we're also told they don't do this to children. They don't do this to children. But think about it. When she was 16, back in 2019, they gave her a double mastectomy, a complete mastectomy. And they let it happen. Remember, we're told that doesn't happen. We're told that they don't give kids puberty blockers are reversible. They're not. But these doctors are committing malpractice. I mean, literally, there's an entire part of the medical industry that's acting like Joseph Mengele. The Nazi doctor experimented on people. And Fox went to trial. And the jury just came back now with some justice for Fox. Some justice for Fox here. And this is actually pretty wholesome. Oh, hold on. Oh, shit. Oh, hold on. Oh, damn. I didn't see this. Oh, fuck. Stephen Cooper for 50 subs. Let's fucking go tonight, chat. You know, that's a Freebird moment right here, chat. Wow. Just coming in off the top rope. The absolute subs, chat.
I can't change. Won't you fly free?
Let's get some subs, chat. Think about it for Clyde. EDW Raptor for 5 subs. If we get Clyde, he'll come dance with us. Clyde, come here, buddy. Philip Kogan says, did you miss me? I think they did. Oh, Luke's got the bulldozers going. Got the killdozers. Salvatore says, this connect. Here, Bonbon. How much to you? Okay, I guess Bonbon not tonight. Oh, but that's right, chat. We had a good day today. I'm playing it on my Walkman, yes. Is Bonbon still there? Yes, for a couple more days. Bonbon's owner isn't going away soon. Amateur iconoclast for what? Hey, Salvatore. Jimmy says, I'm just going to stay gray. I don't want to be like everyone else. Well, this is different. You want to be like everyone else. You want to join the murder. You know, you want to come join the murder. You want to come fly with green. Oh, Marlene, can you not hear? Oh, you're muted. Yes. Jeremy can't even get what 25K channel gets. That's right, chat. We're outpacing the quartering. We're on top, chat. 27K. Me too, Big Enthusiast says, this is all good, but are you wearing pants? Ask your mom. I sent her a pic. I sent pics to your mom. She'll tell you. Spud Gun for 5 subs. Clyde, guys, we don't have Clyde right now, so we'll have to settle for it. Stephen Cooper for $5 says Jesus hates the Grays. That's right, he hates the Grays, chat. That's right, chat. Jesus hates the Grays. We're going to keep America green again. We are going to pray the gray away. Here. VTubing enthusiast for 5 subs. Jesus is like Spider-Man fictional. He's real to me, damn it. Not ironically. I should bring Hannah Claire on the show. I mean, her dad's pretty based. Peter Brimlow's pretty based. I'm not going to lie. So. Music play. No, we're not going to play. We're not going to play that. We're not playing that song. Sorry, Aphex. I might get in trouble for that. So. All right, guys. So getting back to this story. Thank you all, guys, for the support. Fox sued these doctors for medical malpractice. And Fox won a verdict. Fox won a verdict, chat. Fox won a $2 million verdict from the jury. $1.6 million for the harm already. And then $400,000 for future pain and suffering and issues in life. You know, and we are going to go through the documents next week. I found a bunch of them. They're online on Benjamin Ryan's Substack. I've saved a bunch of them up. And yes. So yeah, she, Fox underwent these medical issues and they chopped her up at 16, chat, at 16 years of age. Absolutely fucking awful what they did here. Very now regrets the surgery, and she identifies as a female. And they rushed her into the surgery, and they didn't check her mental health issues, and they didn't obtain informed consent, which is always something you need in the medical profession. Think about that. They aren't getting informed consent, and the problem is she's 16. She can't consent. We can't give a 16-year-old credit cards. We don't let them rent cars. We don't let them buy guns. We don't let them buy alcohol. We don't let them vote. We don't let them sign contracts. We don't let them do a lot of things for this specific reason. Do they really appreciate what they're doing? And it's an absolute travesty what they did to this person. It's some Tavistock shit, yes. And we saw that in Britain, the Tavistock gender clinic, where they were just shoving children in to get butchered. Never checking. So, it's truly abominable what they did here. And yeah, so $2 million in damages total. They're arguing trans regret is rare. The cited studies put it at 5 to 10% among minors. Think about this is cope right here, though. 5 to 10%. That's a lot of people who are permanently fucked up you can't fix. Think about that. Oh, it's only 5 to 10%. And those people can't get put back together again. That's not acceptable. That's not an acceptable rate. That is a lot. It's a lot. Well, they point out in their articles, but it's driving anti-trans policy. It should. It should. And his Fox attorney says it wasn't about this. It was about whether professionals met the standards that covered their own profession. Yeah, but that goes to if they had done their job, they would have said, no, you don't need your titties chopped off. So now the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, which is WPATH, they had to cope here and said this case is about medical malpractice, not a referendum on gender affirming care. Well, it's literally the 1 millionth example of that we're now seeing. So, but they point out, informing parents about potential risk, making sure they're mature enough to consent. And this sounds like a libertarian. What if the child consents? The child can't consent. The child can't consent. They point out, though, for minors, gender affirming care includes puberty blockers and other hormone treatments, which can't be reversed. They say gender surgery is not recommended for minors. But now, but they point out some undergo top surgery. And they point out that, among cisgender girls, cosmetic breast implants happen, or they'll get breast reductions. But that's just the same. No, it's just cope. Just cope. Chope. Terabit says, what do you think this is going to do to affect the insurance of the clinics? Well, I think they're going to have to be very much involved in checking and having policies and making sure they comply. There's a lot of problems here. There's a lot of problems. Also, it's funny. What are the doctors named Einhorn? And we're dealing with transgender issues for all you Ace Ventura fans. Einhorn is Finkel, and Finkel is Einhorn. But they point out that, these doctors didn't have the experience to deal with someone questioning their identity. Why don't they? If they're involved in this, why don't they have experience at that? That just means we're letting anybody go in there and start chopping off titties and tallywhackers. That's not acceptable. That is not acceptable in any way. You know, the one guy had no formal training in caring for transgender clients. And he said that they should go talk to an LGBTQ organization. But he didn't follow up to find out that she had told the therapist she was unsure of her gender identity. They point out the other, the plastic surgeon said she had body dysmorphia, not gender dysmorphia. Which are two big different things. Which are two big things. But you know what these guys said? It was all about the insurance billing, and that's what this all comes down to. The insurance industry, the amount of money made on these transgender surgeries and these transgender medical treatments is absolutely insane. The amount of money these guys are making off of it. That's why it's being propagated at the end of the day. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. And this is going to get treated how we look at giving people lobotomies. It's going to be how we treated the mentally ill in like the 30s and the 40s. It's going to be seen absolutely fucking barbaric. It's absolutely fucking barbaric. The doctors are all like, listen to the cope. The doctors are like, look, they recommended hormone treatment, but she insisted on the top surgery. And then they said that, oh, she might kill herself if she doesn't get the surgery. It's all horseshit. It's all horseshit. I use this advocate because it's a pro-trans group, pro-trans website. But it's interesting this is starting to happen. And next week we're going to start going through the lawsuit. It's just really, there, and I will show you on the P-Dub. What about CK Hutchinson over Panama, which about getting the Panama reports to BlackRock. Yeah, it's absolutely based. So that's we need to fight for control of the Panama Canal. So yeah, we'll talk about that coming up here. But this is huge. This is the first time this has happened. And hopefully it starts happening. We can't keep fucking abusing children with these medical treatments. We can't keep abusing them this way. So, yeah, and Erica, you're right. Parents used to get pissed when their kid got earrings without permission or their ears pierced. Yeah, not anymore. So, guys, keep the space open. We're going to get to it next week. It's going to be very interesting. I've only read through part of the document so far, and it's very eye-opening. It's a very much an eye-opening experience about what Fox went through before they medically abused her. It's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So, Adam says this is the same thing people did for the eunuchs. History just repeating. Well, yeah, but that's a little different. That like nobody volunteered. Some people, very few volunteered to become a eunuch. They were kind of forced into the role. So, let's see. Did I miss anything here? Nico's been a member for 27 months. Black History Month. Learn about Scarlett Hampton. Oh no. I don't know if I want to. Marlene gifting wine sub. Thank you, Marlene. Hope you're doing well out there. Erica Thorpe for $4.99 says for the goal. And Katie for $4.99 says for the goal. I couldn't think of anything cute for tonight, chat. So merely if we meet the goal, we meet the goal. So that's the goal. Derek, do I think this is going to happen? This will affect what goes on. Well, remember, we had that case out in California a year or two ago where the mom wanted to transition the kid and dad fought it and dad lost in court. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I think this is going to start affecting. I think it's going to start affecting it. And then Redcon Hazard for $5 says everyone likes to forget about the Navy SEAL who transitioned and subsequently detransitioned because it didn't fix the underlying health issues he had. Yeah, that's the one who tried to strangle Ben Shapiro. I think they've been on Sean Riot's show. So yeah, but we let people do all kinds of retarded shit to them. So, and it's sad these doctors aren't being held responsible. One day they will be. One day they will be. All right, thank you for that. And then BobTube for $2 Australian says $2 towards your bottom surgery. Well, no, you're like they don't call it anything funny in Australia. Like, here's $2 towards your Chundawanda, mate. Oh, I'm not wearing suspenders, guys. I don't I have shorts on. I don't have pants on. Like, my pants and suspenders are off. So, Erica, I can't do a suspender snap. Sorry. So, you're just gonna have to go there. There's no suspenders tonight. I transitioned to shorts, yes. Jillian Siobhan is saying, I'm a blueberry today. Yes, that's it. Oh. I'm not putting my pants back on. We're done for now. No suspenders, self-wedging, yeah. Blueberry says, I did have a transgender patient. It was an older guy who replies, no, mate, already got me cock cut off. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. Oh. All right. Let's keep moving, chat. This one's actually a pretty sad story to hear. This came out of Detroit, Michigan. A judge and a couple of people were indicted federally. When you see this, it really, as an attorney, and if you guys work with if you work with people who are elderly or developmentally disabled, people who are wards in the system, and there's guardian conservatorships. This really kind of hurts you to hear it and read this. This actually is kind of sad. This is sad this happened. But hopefully, if this actually happened the way it did, these people don't escape man's justice because, don't feel bad for him at all. Don't feel bad for him at all. Now, this happened out in the United States District Court, out in federal court, up in Michigan, so out in the Detroit area. And this is the interesting cases of United States of America versus all these parties, Nancy Williams, Andrea Bradley Baskin, James Avery Bradley, and Dwight Hassan Rashad. And you can see here they've been charged with a couple different things. And some of them we already know. 18 U.S.C. 1001, making false statements. 18 U.S.C. 1343 is wire fraud. It's our good old friend that we know and love. We also have 1957 is money laundering. Our good old friend money laundering, chat. And I told you these things all go hand in hand. When you start having, when you start wire fraud, you're going to generally engage in money laundering, which generally means you're going to be in structuring, which means you're hiding your transactions to avoid reporting requirements, which then leads you on to tax evasion. Sadly, that hasn't happened here. But these guys have pretty much run the gauntlet of offenses at this point. And, what they did was actually pretty disgusting here. But 1349 is the conspiracy and attempt part here. So what did they do here? And this is we're not going to go through the whole thing, but we're going to talk about what happens here. So in Michigan and like most states, probate courts appoint guardians to care for people who are adjudicated incapacitated or wards. You can't care for yourself, and you can't manage your personal and financial affairs. Often the wards are elderly people who can't care for themselves. They got dementia, other health issues. Happens all the time. And they say frequently the wards have no family members or other people who can care for them, or nobody around. Occasionally, wards aren't elderly, but they're people with physical disabilities. They're physically incapacitated, so cognitively, or they have severe mental health problems. It's not uncommon. But I talk about, and this is just like, in Ohio and many other states, the probate courts appoint guardians for people. And guardians are responsible for the care, comfort, maintenance, and custody of their wards. and their job is to take care of it. They're responsible for where they live. You have to make sure that they receive medical services. You take care of them in all the different ways. You're fiduciary. You have to safeguard their assets, their personal property, their furniture. If they have vehicles, you have to protect it. You have to protect their personal items. Also, importantly, bank accounts, life insurance policies, pensions, social security income, the real estate, any other assets, income, anything owned by them, you have to care for it. And those assets have to be used exclusively for the benefit of the ward. And you can't be involved in those. If there's a potential for a conflict of interest, you have to get away from it. So I've been appointed as a guardian before in some situations. And if, for example, if I determine, hey, the, property needs to get sold or something needs to get paid for, well, like if there's a guy and, he needs a new roof and he has money in his bank account for the roof. If I happen also in a roofing company, or like my brother owns a roofing company, or my cousin owns a roofing company, I can't use them for that. That's conflict of interest. You're not allowed to do that. You cannot invest their assets in businesses controlled by you, and you're not allowed to borrow their funds for your own personal use. Like they can't give you loans. You can't write yourself a loan or a check. They also talk about people who are appointed conservators for people who are incapacitated. You have to take care of them, and just like that, you have to possess, collect, and preserve all of their assets. And these are governed, all their duties are governed under the Michigan Prudent Investor Rules, meaning you must invest towards assets as a prudent investor would. And when you are appointed as a guardian or a conservator, you get what are called letters of authority, and the court says, hey, whoever reads this, Sean has the authority to do what he needs to do on behalf of the ward. Letters are valid for a year, and you have to keep renewing them. You have to renew them. You have to set up bank accounts for them. All checks must be deposited into the bank account. You have to copy everything, all bank statements, checks written, and receipts. Checks should be used wherever you can, so there's always a paper trail. And the spending has to benefit the ward and not his family or you or your family members. There are annual reports that have to be filed, about his health, his residence, his mental health, his social activities, because the court needs to know what's going on. You have to show you're taking care of it. If you guys don't know, the reason I'm going through this, I don't think not everybody knows what they have to do. And then once the annual report's filed, the court will issue new letters of authority. And also conservators have to do the same thing. They have to do the same thing. And they talk about, ultimately, Comerica Bank is the bank located in Dallas. It has offices in Eastern Michigan. Oh, who just messaged me? Oh, wow. That's interesting, Kay. Thank you. We probably won't be able to get to this tonight, but we will work on that for later. They talk about all these different banks. Citizens Bank is out of Providence, Rhode Island. Huntington Bank is located in Ohio. Bank of America is located in Charlotte. And now here's where they talk about what these people did. So Nancy Williams, she owns and operates a Guardian and an Associates, which is a guardianship agency. And there are agencies that handle guardianships. There are various nonprofits that do it. This is a little weird how this is set up. But there are nonprofits who do that to help people who have guardianships and conservatorships. But they are the fiduciary for about 1,000 people. Which, think about that, guys. That's a lot of money. Because if you are elderly, you're getting Social Security. If you are a younger person, you're mentally retarded, you're going to be getting Social Security checks as well. So there's a lot of money rolling in. But they point out that these guys operated out in Michigan. They operated Oak Park. But think about 1,000 wards. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of money to manage. It's a lot of money to manage. So they talk about, she maintained depository bank accounts for all of her incapacitated wards. And as a court-appointed guardian, she was required to file reports with the court. And then in June of 2023, based on a conviction for election fraud, which you're like, okay, well, we see where this is starting to go now. She was suspended as a guardian. In January 2024, after internal investigation, her organization was removed from all pending cases. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Bradleys. Andrea Bradley Baskin is a licensed attorney in Michigan. Avery Bradley is also a licensed attorney. Notice they say was. Was. And this isn't a was because they didn't keep up on their CLEs, chat. This is a different kind of was. So, Bradley and his daughter operated the Bradley Law Center. That's weird. It sounds like you're like a nonprofit when you're doing that. As part of their practice, they provide legal services for matters of probate court, which there are a lot of attorneys who do probate stuff. You can keep busy on that. You can keep busy on that because remember, some people are dying all the time. People are dying all the time. So they routinely represented Guardian and Associates, and now you can see where this is starting to come into a problem here. They receive substantial attorney's fees, and you're allowed to, as an attorney, you are allowed to charge estates. You are allowed to charge if there are warrants and they have money. You're allowed to charge out of that to for your fees. But they talk about May of 2023, Andrea Bradley Baskin left it to become general counsel of the 36th District Court. And she then became general counsel to a court. And then in 2024, she was elected judge. And as of January 1st, she serves as a district judge in a court. So now we got a lady who's a judge now. The father continues to practice law. And they both maintained bank accounts at the banks involved. She also maintained a bank, Huntington Bank, and that keeps going on here. They talk about another guy who owned Empowerment Homes and Sims Residential Holdings. So Empowerment Homes, this just sounds so scammy. Empowerment Homes. And they did home care services for individuals needing support. Remember, Chad, it's not just the Somalis in on this crap. It's not just the Somalis. It's not just the Somalis. You know, the Leering centers are big these days. Yeah. It's all kind of scams. And he had a bunch of bank accounts. And as a court-appointed guardian, William placed wards at homes owned and operated by Rashad. And she authorized payments of rent and home care of up to $6,000 a month and a total of approximately $2 million. This is where there's a lot, like I told you, chat, there's a lot of money involved in this. 1,000 people you're managing, you're putting a lot of them in his homes. The average, SSDI check, the average Social Security checks going to rent. There's a lot of there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there. You guys are saying she don't look white. Well, she's a judge in Detroit. How white do you think she's gonna be? So notice they talked about this. They sold at least 5 homes owned by guardians to the holdings company. And while acting as a court-appointed guardian authorizing payments, Williams was living with Rashad in a home in the Eastern District of Michigan. She was named the beneficiary of at least 2 of his bank accounts. And she drove a Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is registered to Empowerment Homes. You're like, just look at how insane these people are. Stealing money and self-dealing. This is what it's called, self-dealing. In legal terms, you're not allowed to self-deal. And this is where, if you guys ever watch Band of Brothers, when Dick Winters is talking to Buck Compton right before they go into Normandy, he says, never put yourself in a position where you could take from them. And if you have a fiduciary duty like this, especially to people, like, you don't steal from any of your clients, but people like in this situation, never ever put yourself in a position where you could take from anybody like that. It's absolutely fucking horrible what they've done to these people. And This is far too common in these situations. Yeah. Yep. It happens all the time. Happens way too fucking much. Happens way too much. Family members will rip off their other family members too. Kia Patrick says steals money, buys a Jeep. Come on. Yes. So they talk about conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Remember, Chad, if you are doing anything fraudulently and using the wires for it, that's wire fraud. And the wire fraud means electronically nowadays. We need another RoboCop. Yeah, well. But what did they do? They agreed to commit wire fraud, and they knowingly, intentionally, with the intent to defraud, devised a scheme to defraud and obtain money by materially false and fraudulent pretenses. And obviously, the object of the conspiracy was for the defendants to enrich themselves and their associates by embezzling funds and using false and fraudulent papers. $2 million is a lot, chat. $2 million is a lot. So what would happen? Well, the guardian and the attorney wrote and obtained unauthorized checks drawn on those bank accounts from the wards. Those checks were deposited into all their bank accounts. And it's just ridiculous what they did. And, to obtain those funds, they withdrew the stolen funds in cash and wrote checks for goods and services they wanted unrelated to the care of the wards. They did all kinds of fraudulent stuff. They sold property belonging to the wards to their buddy or associates of their buddy, or they purchased property belonging to the wards for themselves at below market value. Like this is fucking awful what they've done here. On one instance, and this is a big deal, they didn't get permission from the court to sell real estate. To sell real estate, you need permission from the court, even if you are the guardian. And there's generally two types of guardians. Like you have a guardian of the person, and then you have a guardian of the state. A lot of times they're the same, but many times they're not. And to sell anything like that, like selling bric-a-brac and just garbage, yeah, it's okay. Selling the real estate of the ward. They point out when they did seek the permission, they failed to disclose a relationship between the parties. And there were false and misleading deeds. That's more fraud. That's more fraud. They routinely prepared false and misleading documents, bills, and invoices. That's more wire fraud, chat. It's not just the fraud into the bank. They use the interstate wires to do this. And remember, the banks are not located. The bank headquarters are not there, so it happens. And they talk about the theft these guys did. They stole from HB, who was a ward. So the attorney, Bradley, filed an appearance on the case as an attorney. They opened a bank account for the estate of HB at two banks to pay for living expenses. The bank account was replenished monthly as the Social Security checks came in. In December 2017, the account had, a balance of $13,000. On December 22nd, the account at Comerica Bank had a balance of $308,000. From there, they moved him into a home owned by Rashad. And then acting on behalf of the guardian, they signed multiple rental agreements, agreeing to pay $3,000 a month to house HB. They caused checks to be issued for rent from $3,000 to $4,000 a month. In addition to that, they caused all kinds of other checks to be issued. And at one point they issued 9 $24,000 checks to be issued. They wrote 9 checks for $24,100 to Empowerment Homes. And then in 2019, they caused a $18,000 check to be issued, which brought the $300,000 amount, chat. Yes. For those of you keeping score at home for that $300,000 amount, for those of you keeping score at home, it's this account right here they're talking about, which would bring it to $0. The checks totaled about $235,000 were not used for the benefit of HB. I'm sure they didn't, but absolutely fucking awful. Jeff's asking a question. This is a good one. If a ward doesn't have assets, do guardians get compensated by the state? Yes. they can get compensated by the state. But generally speaking, it all depends on how things are set up. Usually you have like agencies that do it, but every once in a while, like a court has called me and said, "Hey, Sean, there's one court particularly. They'll call me like, hey, can you investigate some things for us on this for somebody who's a ward?" And the guy's broke, the guy has no money, so the state pays for it. The court will pay for it. Yeah, I mean, it does happen. It does happen that way. So then they point out the lady who became the judge, got rent payments. They issued a $25,000 check on the estate, and this check was payable to ASR Property. And the judge signed a lease from ASR Properties to rent a house in Westland, Michigan. She used a $25,000 check to prepay her rent for the property for 1 year. The $25,000 check wasn't used for the benefit of them. Yeah. And then check this out. This is where it gets. This is really evil. They drafted and signed a letter to Guardian in care of Nancy Williams on Bradley letterhead, which stated, "Our firm has worked to resolve the civil matter involving your consumer, and are happy to report the pre-suit counteroffer was accepted, and full and final release of the claim will be signed upon our receipt of the settlement check by the claim in the amount of $36,000. They say our firm will maintain the confidentiality, and in doing so shall issue the check. To that end, please provide a check payable to our IOLTA account so we may proceed towards resolution." So they wrote a check for a bullshit lawsuit. They made up a claim for them to pay. It's just absolutely fucking awful what these people have done. So the attorney endorsed a check which went into the trust account, which is normally if you settle with somebody in a lawsuit and you've done them wrong and you want to settle and you have to pay them, you write a check out to the attorney to put into their IOLTA account. And from that IOLTA account, attorney A gives it to attorney B. That's how, number one, everybody documents it. But also, number two, you could show proof that you actually paid to them. It keeps the train moving. Boosh, the other stuff wasn't evil. I know this is even it gets worse and worse and worse. It keeps going. Yeah, very Murdaugh-esque, kind of. So in 2018, she withdrew $14,000 in cash from that Citizens Bank account. So she took money out of an IOLTA fraudulently. She should get disbarred for that. She should be getting disbarred for that. Fucking around with an IOLTA account like that. Fraudulently doing it. In 2018, she withdrew $9,000 in cash from that account. And it says the $36,000 check was not used for the benefit. They talk about another $5,000 check. Another $5,000 check was drawn. And this check was not used for the benefit of anybody else. They sold HB's home. And what happened? So somebody named LW, a friend of Rashad, said that, hey, do you want to buy HB's home? He claimed that he purchased the home for $5,000 and gave the cash for HB. There's no record of HB receiving the cash or depositing it. And at that time, the quitclaim deed was filed stating that the home was sold for $1. Now, you'll sell the home for $1 because you do for $1 valuable consideration because you need to have some sort of there needs to be some sort of, bargain for exchange. But you also do $1 because you don't have to tell them how much you paid. That could be between you and the seller. So they point out later on, they filed an affidavit claiming there was a Scrivener's error in the deed. And the Scrivener's error means what year? Was it 2016 instead of 2015? Anything like that. Scrivener error, minor typo. And the date of the sale should have been July 2015. They point out the and notice this is how they get around this. 2015 predates the guardianship for HB. And that's what they're doing because HB had already been declared incapacitated. So they point out that in March of 2019, a new quitclaim deed was filed saying the house was sold in 2015. And that was to make it look like an arm's length transaction. They point out that as of 2025, LW still resides at the home on Steel Street and probably won't leave until cops drag him the fuck out. And then in 2023, Williams filed her last annual report recommending guardianship be continued because the ward cannot make informed decisions. I mean, just think about this, guys. Like all the money that's gone here. You know, JW, he had a count of $225,000. You know, on May 2nd, to $225,000. 2 weeks later, $200,000 disappeared. $200,000 disappeared. Yeah, and this is just like out of freaking Dumb and Dumber. Well, we gave you IOUs. They're just as good as real money. We'll pay you back. So what did they do? They requested a $92,000 payment for residence fees. You know, claiming for like 2 years of residence fees. This is just, they point out that he did not live in these homes until 2018. But apparently, through 2016, but bank accounts weren't open until 2017 and 2018. So what do they do? Still, they cause a $92,000 check to be drawn. And it said paid in full. They then another $70,000 check to the attorneys. These $70,000 checks were, the $70,000 check went to somebody named MF, who used it as a down payment on a purchase for a bar. And it was all done in the name of a holding company. And the attorney, while not the owner of the holding company, became a beneficial owner. But then what happened? Well, the bar was damaged in a car crash. And the woman the female attorney, the one who's judged now, filed an insurance claim identifying herself as the owner of the bar. They received 2 insurance checks totaling more than $99,000 made payable to the holding company. The first check was for $14,500, and it was deposited into their own bank accounts. The second one was deposited into the IOLTA. Remember, that's the interest on legal trust accounts. And the way an IOLTA account works, chat, as an attorney, if for retainers or whatever reason, money on your behalf is given to your attorney, it has to go into an IOLTA account. Now, there are times where you pay them and they've already earned the work and it's, earned on pay. Sometimes it's not, especially if there's a retainer. So when an attorney asks you for a $20,000 retainer, it sits in the IOLTA account, but it's a bank account. So what's it doing? It's earning interest, and you're not allowed to make money off of your clients. So what do you do with the interest? Well, each state does it differently, but every state has a bank, like a process set up where, as an attorney, you register your bank account with the Supreme Court of your state or your bar association, and your bank is then instructed all the interest every year that gets skimmed off the top and sent to your Supreme Court or your bar association, and that's meant for funding indigent legal initiatives and various things like that for the betterment of the public, because you're not allowed to make money off of your clients like that. That's unethical. Oh yeah, they keep going, Erica. They keep going here. Yes, they needed the money for a business in Winnemucca. I understand that. Derek saying, can they get that money back, or is it just gone for? It's like when your grandma gets ripped off by a Nigerian prince. Like, maybe they could claw back that money, but that money's gone for the most part. That money's never coming back. That one guy's living in that person's house still. Yeah, most of this money's gone, and that's the problem for victims of this. It's a lot of times funding left-wing causes. Isn't violating the rules of an IELTS already getting you in very hot water? It depends on what happens. Like, one of the biggest things that will get you immediately roto-rooted is if your IOLTA account bounces a check. If that happens, you're getting a call within days from the Supreme Court saying, what the fuck's going on? Because now they're concerned, are you mismanaging client funds? Or are you stealing client funds? Like, what's going on? But yes, like generally, yes, if you're violating these rules, it could be a problem. It can be a problem. They point out that in 2024, there were 3 checks issued for a total of 54 Gs. But wait, where did the other 30 go? These checks were used to prepay a year's rent on her residence in Detroit. And they point out the purchase of the bar was not used for the benefit of him. You know, this $54,000 check they talk about in 2018, another one was sent to Company One, owned by an unindicted co-conspirator. They made 6 cash withdrawals totaling $30,000 from their accounts. And they point out that, a lot of people are involved. Theft from EV. There was a lawsuit settlement, a $312,000 car crash settlement with proceeds of $203,000 going to the ward. Now, remember, the attorney took 30% off the top. Actually, Luke, I think LW is the snitch because LW is still living in the house that he illegally bought. So I think that's the actual snitch. So what happened? They sent the $300,000 check into the bank account. They paid litigation and attorney's fees. And they point out that later on they opened another IOLTA account and they withdrew funds. And they put $171,000 into his IOLTA account. He then took $42,000 and sent it to a DNA Investors, which meant there were only $111,000 left after all that was done. And this check was the final payment for the bar. And the bar was owned by MF and had owned Chick's Bar at the time. In 2020, Evie died. So what did they do? Then they took the remaining $140,000 from the IOLTA account and they deposited into her bank account. And because she's dead, the probate court's back involved. And the accountings listed her only assets as a Comerica bank account with $1,300 in it. And then eventually, the Guardian issued a $137,000 check to LV, a relative of EV, which was all the money left. And look at all this money that's going on here. $137,000 checks were sent to the residential holdings company. Like, these guys just fucking ripped people off over and over and over and over again. I mean, the amount of money these guys were dealing with here is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. But yeah, this money's all gone. This money got pissed away and all kinds of shit. It's never coming back. It's never coming back. $9,000 payments for shitty construction stuff and bogus construction things. These people are never getting their money back. It's all gone. It's all gone. 50 pages of just rip. Look at all these people they ripped off. These are the ones they could identify and actively trace. Look at how much they ripped these people off for. I mean, I think you guys should see this. And it's something, if you have family members who are, they have guardians, check on them. You can, depending on your state and how things are worded, you can say, I want to check on the books. I want to see what's going on. I want to see the accountings. Do that. Take care of your elderly family members and your disabled family members. Doesn't take much for them to get abused and ripped off. Does not take much for them to get abused and ripped off. It's very, very scary. Very scary. Derek saying, will these people face real prison time? Hopefully. And presumably, yes. Presumably, yes. Presumably, yes. They would go to prison, but you never know. You never know. I'd like to tell you for sure, but you can't promise it. Can't promise it. And then a real quick chat. Moving on to some stuff that's a little kind of funnier in a way, but really just a blending of memes and the internet and real life. If you guys go through now, more and more Jeffrey Epstein stuff has been released. And if you go through and search it, you can search a couple of different things here. And one of the funnier ones is Jeffrey Epstein is talking to people running Activision as they're creating Call of Duty games. And very likely, if you were playing Call of Duty back in the day, you were interacting with Jeffrey Epstein. So that guy you were screaming at and calling a pedophile and a rapist when you found out they were an adult, it probably was. It probably was. It probably was. But you can see he's talking to people from Activision, and saying that, prizes are good, but, you want kids to, get involved in microtransactions. And then the other thing I thought was absolutely horrifying was in the fucking Epstein emails, the Epstein files chat is this. Like, the meme magic is real. Look who's popped up in the look who popped up. Yes, Epstein and Bobby Kotick are tribesmen. Yes, they are. River Runner says, this legit? Yes. Ziozout? Yeah. Ziozout, c'est potato masher? Before he was mashing those palm de terres. Jean-Francois Garapi. Yes, as he talked about, was involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Really is involved in the Epstein files. When he was doing his, I'm ready to ask for any update concerning Mr. Epstein's donations. And if I could provide any more information, thanks, Jean-Francois. And this was when he was doing Neuro.tv, which was his thing he was trying to do here. But anyways, yes. He says, although we're not I love this because you could just hear the sector in him. It's a nonprofit that hasn't obtained its 501c3 status yet. You can also just make the check payable to myself. You're like, that is total, like, total scamming. Total scamming there. Yes, Cleopatra, yes. The great JF has already admitted to being in contact with Jeffrey Epstein. I know, but now there's actual proof. Like, he admitted it, but now we know it's for real. He wasn't just bullshitting. Yes, Chuch, it says, but of course. Yes. See how you say, Andy. Andy, I wish to measure your head. Is it called phrenology? But yes, this is all stuff out here. This is just fucking insane. So, from Jean-Francois to Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, you are low IQ, Andy. Yes, to Jeffrey Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein vacation at gmail.com. He's like, thank you so much for your help. I will be spending the next 20 days making sure the Kickstarter campaign is successful. Oh yeah, this is literally. I hope we can find some things here. Jeffrey Epstein says immediately. He was not a very good speller. And then JF also wrote, Dear Mr. Epstein, please let me know you'd be ready. Like, this is just fucking hilarious. We will use this money to create a unique academic platform that will make its mark in science education history. Oh yeah, that totally did. It totally did. You can tell JF is quintessentially French using the proper accents in his last name. Yeah, but also on Francois. But that's a function of characters when you type them in. Me and the potato are ready for this transaction. Gay rape, yes. Yes. Dear Mr. Epstein. I can't wait for CWC to do a fucking video on this. So, just a little bit of funniness for the night. A little bit of funniness for the night, chat. Um, Moving on from there, Ryan Routh, remember, chat, he is the man who attempted to assassinate the Emperor of Mankind by hiding in the bushes at the Trump Golf Club in Palm Beach and was laying there in wait with an SKS, which I will admit, he did a very good job at sneaking in and setting up a sniper hide. But he got spotted by a Secret Service agent running ahead of Trump and engaged with the man, got wounded. You know, there was a bit of an exchange. And eventually he was arrested. This is the guy, he was out like being pro-Ukrainian. And hey, look, it's an Azov flag in the corner. That's totally not, anything a problem there. Anyway, he was sentenced to life in prison Wednesday at this point. So that is how this worked out for him. Remember, he represented himself at trial and got an attorney for the sentencing. He tried to argue that he was only entitled to 27 years in prison. Got a lot more. Got a lot more at this point. So, and the funny thing was, it was in front of District Court Judge Eileen Cannon, which, yes, chat, the judge that was involved in all the Trump stuff was hearing the case about Trump. So there you go. She pointed out that, he's not a typical person and not a typical inmate. And yes, he had a lot of mental health issues. So, yeah. So he's going away for all day. Das Boot says that was a very quick turnaround trial. Well, he didn't drag it out. It's different when you're kind of dragging out the case and getting stuff to happen. It's a little different there. Where is? Okay, we got that. We're gonna save another story here for a minute. Savannah Guthrie, guys. This is one that's gonna get really interesting. It's already got some interesting stuff there. Savannah Guthrie, the host of and the NBC media personality. This is her mom, and her mom was kidnapped. Her mom got kidnapped. And we know this is like, at first when we all heard this, we're like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. But no, apparently her mom was kidnapped. Her mom got kidnapped. And there have been some ransom notes and things that have happened. And there was a ransom note that said ransom need to get paid by 5 p.m. today. And it passed. But there's 2 missing deadlines. And there's just all kinds of, like, this is a weird story, chat. It's a very weird story. And there's all kinds of stuff that has happened. There's all kinds of stuff that has there's all kinds of weird stuff that has gone on. Obviously, there's no way for us to know what's in the note. Also, why does it do this? Apparently, like, the New York Post freaks out if you open more than one version of it at a time. We think it's a family member. Yeah, it probably is a family member. I know there's some allegations. There's like a brother-in-law or something where this could be happening. So it's not. Why is it doing that? But there's a demand for a bunch of Bitcoins, which, hoping they're not traceable. Is it a real capping or a Fargo situation? We're not sure. We're not sure yet. We're not sure yet. We're not sure yet. But what they did is they did they read a video. They did a video where they're like, please don't hurt her. We'll give you money. Please give me my mom back. And they showed up on this. Now, here's where it starts to get interesting. The police had showed up to her mom's house and done some basic looking. Brian Enton, he's a reporter for News Nation, went out to her house and found like blood smears on the ground, chat, on the ground. Like, look at that. That looks like blood to you, don't it? That looks like blood. And then also her Ring camera was ripped off the wall. Well, within hours of this being put on Twitter, the police were back out there keeping the house isolated so people couldn't walk up to it. So that's that's kind of where we are with it. Now, somebody did get in trouble for some things involved in this case. And this is where this actually gets a little funny. So there's a guy here named Derek Colella. What did he do? Well, he did something very, 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 very stupid. And you wouldn't think, well, maybe it's all a prank, bro. Yet nobody took it as a prank. Nobody took this as a prank. So what did he do? Well, he's got 2 counts of intending to transmit a demand for ransom. And those are in violation of 18 USC 875A. Because he can't do it if it's regarding to any kidnapped person. And then what did he do? He also used, interstate or foreign communication, made a telephone call, with the intent to abuse, threaten, harass any specific person, which is also another federal crime. Now, what did he do here? Well, this got sworn out, and they point out that Savannah Guthrie's mom was last seen on January 31st. She's 84 years old with mobility issues, and that, she can't walk far. But on February 1st, a friend contacted the family and said that her mom had not attended church. And then at noon, the family entered the residence and determined that she was missing and reported her to law enforcement missing. Shortly thereafter, they saw that she left everything in her home: her wallet, car, cell phone, hearing aids, and medications. And her blood was found on the outside of her residence near the porch. So we know for a fact that the blood is real. We know for a fact the blood is real. So what happened here? Well, the CBS affiliate in Tucson received a ransom demand via their online tip portal, and it listed a Bitcoin wallet address. Then they talk about Savannah Guthrie's family asking the kidnappers to contact them. So here's what happened. So they talk about the after the video was published. So Savannah Guthrie's sister and her brother-in-law both received a text message from the following phone number stating, "Did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction." And the police were able to trace the number to a VoIP text and call application, allows users to use another phone number for their mobile devices. And why is this catching on everything? It's annoying when it does that. And they say based on that, they went ahead and found that number and they saw it was registered to an email address. And I'm assuming the email address was probably the guy's name at, gmail.com. So they went ahead and traced the IP address to his residence in California. And after Miranda warnings, once again, chat, when you're giving Miranda warnings, shut up. Shut up. Now from there, he admitted to sending the 2 text messages. He admitted to creating the VoIP account. He also stated that he pulled family information from a cyber website and he had been following along watching TV. When he did this, he said he was trying to see if the family would respond. They said that he called a family member, which lasted 9 seconds. These 2 text messages have not been linked to the ransom demand. So he's a guy just fucking around. He's a guy just fucking around, causing problems. And he's like, oh, I just want to see what will happen. Now he's facing federal fucking charges. Brilliant work. Brilliant work. Do not get involved. Don't fuck around in these situations. Do not do it. This is completely unnecessary. This guy just stomped all over his dick. Absolutely horrible. Don't do it. If they're giving you your Miranda rights, really stop at that point. Like, this is all awful. But yes, now this guy's got federal charges because he basically jumped into a federal investigation of federal kidnapping and was like, just a prank, bro. I'm sure that's what he's telling his attorneys. Look, it was just a joke, please. Well, it's a lot more than a joke, homie. It's a lot more than a joke. Yeah, no, just keep going, see what happens. Yeah, I don't recommend that. But yeah, I don't feel sorry for him, but guys, don't like these things are serious. Don't be retarded like that. That's scary crazy, man. That is scary crazy. Um that is scary, scary, scary crazy. Um where is what are we getting to? All right. All right, chat. Moving this is where this one here, it just fits in well with the pro-immigration narratives here. And this one, when you read this, you're not gonna believe it. I don't understand how this happened. And there's some people, including the judge, who probably needs to lose their law license out of this. Um, but this is also the problem of this caused so much pain for people when juries get fucked with. This is the sad part. So this is a doctor out of UCLA, and this is James Heaps. He is a gynecologist, and he was convicted of multiple counts of sexual abuse and sexual assault against various women victims. Well, he went to trial, and in the middle of trial, and remember, this is the thing. If you guys didn't know about this, it was in October of 2022, a 2-month long trial. 2 months. And an appeals court ruled that he didn't get a fair trial because there was an issue with one of the jurors having an English competency issue. So he was sentenced to 11 years in prison. And here's what happened. His case being sent back for a retrial involving the two patients he was convicted of abusing. And here's what happened. This is weird. So during the jury deliberations, the judge sent a judicial assistant into the jury room. Okay, I mean, that's fine. That's fine. And they went to speak to the jury about a note sent by the foreperson. Okay, and that can happen. Well, what's on the note? They all had a concern that juror number 15 did not speak English sufficiently enough to deliberate and had already made up his mind. Wow. Wow. Now they point out that he had been an alternate, but he replaced another juror. And it says only an hour later they sent the note out. And they said that his language barrier is preventing us from deliberating. They point out juror 15 was not able to understand calls to vote guilty or not guilty, and point out he's got limited English. How did this get through voir dire? How do the attorneys not notice this guy go, I know speaky. No hable inglés, señor. How did they not see this? How did they not see this? I don't get it, chat. I don't get it. I don't understand. I just don't understand. But then here's the really fucked up part. The judicial assistant spoke to the jury in English, and then at the request of juror number 15 in Spanish. So who knows what was being said? And this is a very critical thing, you guys. When we see these court cases where you have like a translator, that translator is specialized. They have experience and training. They could speak in the necessary manner that courtrooms require. But at no time did the judge inquire of the jury or inform the trial counsel of the note's existence. Think about that. The jury sent out a note, and the attorneys were never told about it. And it only gets worse from there, Chad. It only gets worse from there. The attorneys were never told about the note. And then later on, they point out that the conversations with the judicial assistant, with the jury, were not documented. There's no court reporter, nothing. They had off-the-record conversations. And the defense attorneys never got informed of the communications, and the trial went to verdict. And it's true. If they would have known, they would have determined whether the guy was qualified to serve. But no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So, now it's funny, the prosecutor said, well, this was harmless error, and the court's like, no, this is really bad. This is really bad. And yeah, this guy did not have a fair and impartial jury. His convictions were for sexual battery by fraud, meaning he induced those women to do something. Like he probably said, you need to, kind of like Larry Nassar, I need to give your daughter a pelvic exam. Let her sit up on the table. And in reality, he's poking around in that girl's cooch for the fun of it. So, yeah, just think about that. Think about that. No habla inglés, señor. And that's on your jury. That's on your jury. That's on your jury. Imagine that. Yes, chat. So, isn't that illegal off the record bullshit? I mean, anytime the court's interacting with the jury, it should be on the record. Now, like, it's simple. If, like, they needed coffee and, like, the lady's like, here's how you turn on the coffee machine. Okay. But yes, anything serious should always be on the record. Notes should always be on the record. The attorney should have been notified, and they said, we got a note from the jury saying a guy doesn't understand English. But this is such a disaster because these victims have to go back through this. And the UCLA paid out $700 million to settle lawsuits from all the victims. Like 200 former patients sought settlement. And now these victims are being told they got to start over. So it's not good, chat. It's not good. It's not good. Not good at all. Not good at all. Little Jen that could for $4.99 says the Pants Fund. Well, thank you. Anonymous for $2 says thoughts on the court transitioning in this case. That'd be funny. And then Anonymous says, imagine if it's Mama J.E. rather than Mama J.F. I still think she would have been mashed at some point. She still would have been mashed as a potato. And then Shredder S07 says, for 19 months, this smells like a PR stunt to me for Savannah Guthrie. Maybe. It wouldn't be the first time something like that's happened. And after, good to see you, saying the blood by the front door was found to be a DNA match by the sheriff today. Okay. Makes sense. And Trenches and Tread says, Sean, do you know who else doesn't understand? Juror number 15. But Margaret Rodriguez says, would you have to give that juror a language test? Well, I think you would start speaking with them, like, and if they, said okay, like, it sounds like even their conversational English wasn't good. So you wouldn't have to give them a written test, but you could just start talking to them and see how well they can handle themselves. So, how do they know they, you can understand language but not speak it well? It doesn't sound like he could do that. It didn't sound like he understood them either. How do they know they suck at English? Well, because they realize that it's like if you start speaking language, you suck. You'll know it. The Debbie O for $5 says, if nothing was documented, how did the lawyers find out? Did one of the jurors go to the defense or something? I don't know. I don't know how that came about, but yeah, certainly something happened. Something happened. In a situation like this, it could be a juror, but it could also be courthouse staff who don't like seeing injustice like this go on. It's definitely possible there. Missouri says, doesn't California have all kinds of don't they have all kinds of interpreters and answering services? Yes. Even here in Ohio, I can get well, I mean, I live next to Cleveland. So finding like an interpreter who could speak any number of languages is not going to be too hard. But even if you're out in the middle of cow country and you need somebody who could speak like Swahili, that can be arranged. And it may be like through video, but they'll figure something out. They'll figure something out. So Katie says, imagine sitting there for 2 months and not knowing a goddamn idea what's going on. Yeah, that's the crazy part. That's the crazy part of this all. You had to sit there like, how you figured out you had to show up. Or somebody told you go to this building, and then you just sit there for like 2 months. And you're just sitting there every day. You come in, they're like, hello, and you're like, hi. And then you just hear womp 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 for 2 months straight. That would be awful. That would be awful. That would be absolutely horrible. Erica says, I can speak Spanish. I volunteer. Yeah. But Ohio have cows? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, what are you guys doing here? Yeah, imagine you're called for jury duty in Taiwan and you're just sitting there saying, shit, shit, shit. I know. Imagine that. You're called to Russia and you're just like, uh-oh. Yeah, you just have no idea what's going on. Stephen Cooper says, I wonder what their lunch was. Oh, yes. A free check and lunch for months. Yeah. That's the thing. He gets all that jury money. I think in California, you get a little bit better of a. I think you get a little bit better of a check in California nowadays. So, oh, god damn. I tried to trim that earlier. The wing did not take. And it's weird how I get this like line just running. And I wonder if it's because my collar, this collar keeps like brushing up against it. I kind of feel like it is. But look, you can see the wing. You got to get that tonight. Oh. Yeah, and that's normally what happens. The appellate lawyers look through the court file, and that's the thing you get because anytime there's jury questions, all those questions get put into the file. The court, like the file for the court has running the case. They should always be in there. And I'm sure they found it and said, well, wait, why is there no evidence of this ever existing? And they probably put 2 and 2 together and went, uh-oh. So even with the translator and the info still being filtered through an interpreter, yes, but on a wall, when you have interpreters swear under oath that they're interpreting properly and they're doing it correctly. They can find themselves in trouble of their own if they do it. And on top of that, depending on what type of interpreter you are, they have sent in people to check on courts to see that person's actually doing it right. But no, I've never encountered a problem with an interpreter for any language that I've dealt with so far. And I've dealt with a bunch of interpreters. Obviously, a lot of them are in Spanish. And there are times where if the attorney, like there are attorneys who are very fluent in Spanish, they can speak to clients and the client can accept that or whatnot. But yeah, when you have like a juror like that, there's gonna be no way to help them with that at all. After that at all. So yeah, just think about it. It's so selfish. And just it's an example of what happens when your mind is so open that your brain falls out. That your brain falls out. Now, moving on from here, guys. If you guys know Billie Eilish, the singer, actually, real quick, we need to address this. That came out real quick right here. Hey Baylor for $9.99 says, is Don Lemon a felon yet? Not yet. No. Just take your time. Take your time, chat. It's not guaranteed, but we're working on it. We're working on it. They're working on it. But yes, Gooding, this is kind of a funny thing here, chat. Billie Eilish, she during the Grammys said that we're all on stolen land. She said nobody's illegal on stolen land, and she basically inferred that all the land is stolen. Which okay, well, that includes your $3 million house is on stolen land, and people acknowledged that and brought up, hey, wait, you're on stolen land too. Yes, and in response to all of that, hilariously, people pointed out that the Indian tribe, the Tongva people, lived on that land, and a California real estate attorney from the Sinai law firm, certainly, if you're noticing, you're noticing. But they said that they're willing to evict Billie Eilish from her Los Angeles home on a pro bono basis on behalf of the tribe. Now, they point out that, so what do they said? The admission she lives on stolen land gives us the tribe a rightful action for possession as the owner of the true property. And it says, after a 30-day notice, we're ready to put that up and send it in. Which you're like, wait, are they really going to do this? Are they really going to do this? Well, no. No, they are not. They are not doing this. But they do point out that this is more of a point to say that when you're talking about things like stolen land, those are that's serious meaning and implications. And they point out that, like city councils and governments will do land acknowledgements. It's really a big thing up in Canada. And he points out it's all virtue signaling and it's used as a weapon at the same time. And they point out it's empty because nobody's giving the land back. Just like Billie Eilish is not going to get evicted or give her land back. And it's used as a political weapon. And he does point out here at the end of the day, no land is stolen. It's just taken. And I agree. It's just taken. He says, I don't make the rules, chat. I just work here. He says, I don't make the rules. That's just the way history works. And he's correct. And that's actually a very base take at the end. Like, it's history is just people taking stuff from each other. It's how it goes. Did they steal it? Well, it's kind of like in 1883 where the guy's like, the government stole our land. He's like, I didn't steal it. I paid for it. And that's really kind of how this works. Your land gets stolen, but they didn't do that. Other people did. Like, it happens. Also, what the heck is this? Sorry, I got a message. Yeah, we're conquerors. Land is conquered. It's taken. So, but they point out that this was all just meant to be performative. But really, at the end of the day, I do kind of want to look into this because when you think about it, how would this work? How would this work if you had stolen land? Well, you can't just say, oh, well, it was meant to be a joke. Well, no, you said you live on stolen land, meaning you acknowledge that you don't have title to it. And this is a common thing in the law, and there's a saying in the law that a thief cannot pass on better title than what he has. So, for example, if I steal something and sell it to you, you're not the rightful owners either. I can't give you better title to something than what I have. And as a thief, I have no title. So I can't technically give you title. And even though we're like, let's say we're talking about like this marker, if I give it to you, you have title to it if you are the rightful owner. Now, does that make Billie Eilish a squatter? I think so, but I think it would also be an argument. Billie Eilish is acknowledging that if she's saying this, she's admitting she knows the land is stolen, meaning that she knows her deed is fraudulent and that it's actually not the rightful owners of the land she bought it from. And at the end of the day, would a court ever agree to this or hold it up? No, no. I don't think any court in California or America would go along with this. But I think it's very funny, though, for her to say, well, the land's stolen except for mine. Now, there are things out there like marketable title acts, which show like after a certain amount of time, generally like 50 years, title issues all get remedied and ignored. If they haven't been raised and 50 years has gone by and there have been no problems, well, a marketable title act quiets those issues and says all these other, claims are gone. There's times where it doesn't work. And, all that's out there. But Billie Eilish doing this, I wish they could have happened that way. It would have been hilarious. It would be funny as hell. And yeah, I agree with you, Stephen Cooper. Calling it stolen land dishonors the memories and spirits of the people on both sides that fought for it. As much as people didn't like the ending for Yellowstone, no, it's true. When Mo comes up to the kids when they're tearing up the Dutton burial plots, and he pointed out like these people fought for this land and died for it. You're gonna respect them. They protected this land. Maybe not the way we wanted, but a lot of people fought and died for that land. This land that we sit on, the people that came to this continent, were engaged in an undertaking never before dealt with in history. A different kind of conquest. No. And what are you guys? Yeah. And then Durna says a lot of settlement, it was just these tards bought all this land we can't even use for these cool beads. Man, we really screwed him over. Yeah. Yeah. That was a lot of it. But there was a lot of blood had to be spilled to make stuff happen. There was a lot of blood spilled to make that happen. It's a big thing here. Bella's saying, isn't Canada and Australia going through some shit because they've done this? Yes. Yes. First Nation, the natives in their countries, the Aborigines in Australia, and the Indians up in the north. Yeah, it's Cyanide Cologne is correct. Yes, it has rendered mortgages canceled and land has basically become worthless because it can't be transferred because it's stolen land technically. Once again, you're trying to be virtue signaling and you're so open-minded your brain falls out. Look what it does. Look what it does. Look what it does. Yes. Yes, when they're not taking your land back, they're doing Rama Rama. So let me see here. Hold on. They like indigenous. Well, they'll like whatever I call them. But it's an interesting thought. It's a thought experiment, though. Well, if you're saying that it's not your land, well, then anybody could come take it. And if they can go back and say they're the rightful owners, then they're coming to take it, I guess. Which would have been hilarious if they did that and they drug her out of there. That would have been the best thing ever. And then Luke says, today in New Zealand is White Tanagi Day, which is basically the original document about these kind of issues. Here. Oh, cool. The Aborigines, mate. Cleopatra says no one's illegal. So you're saying I could adversely possess this? Yes. Yes, you could. Garbage, deplorable, bitter Klinger says the thing is they took it from someone too. Yes, but you know what? That's a problem for the people that it was taken from. They need to figure out who tribally was there before. That's their problem. That's not yours. So you get the title now. You could say, I'm the rightful owner of the land. And then if they could find someone else who could say, no, I'm the rightful owner, you could do duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season. But just yeah, I wish it would have happened. It would have been hilarioso. Muy hilarioso, as my people would say. But it would have been so goddamn funny. It would have been so goddamn funny. Hold on. Trying to get rid of some stuff here. All right. Now, yeah, native title is an insane mess in Australia. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. That's why we don't worry about that here. It's like we took over, your title's invalid. The United States government conquered your land. You no longer have title to it. That's how we handle that. That's how we handle it to it. Now we're gonna skip ahead here to Luigi Mangione, and then we'll end on the Fulton County search warrant story. Guys, remember Luigi Mangione? He is America's sweetheart. He is standing trial for murdering the CEO of United Healthcare when he walked up to him on the streets of Manhattan and just went with the suppressed Glock and went right into the guy and fled. He had a surge. He had a motion to suppress recently. That was actually very well written. We might go over. I think we already went over that a little bit. Certainly, they didn't talk about watermarks to help out. But also, Luigi filed a motion in federal court to stop the death penalty from being used against him. Now, he's got two separate cases. He's got a case in New York State court and a case in federal court. The case in federal court, they were looking at the death penalty. And he actually got a big win in this one because the judge is preventing that from happening. And before you guys get mad and get all shitty about it, it's actually a lot of things that make sense. It's a lot of things that make sense. So what's he facing here? What he's facing here is a couple different counts. He's got count one, the use of electronic communication systems to stalk Brian Thompson. Count two is the use of a firearm during in relation to the stalking crimes. And then he's got count three, which is the use of a firearm in relation to the stalking crimes, charging counts 1 and 2. And then also count four, as far as things that are done here in count four. They go through all of this and they point out that the stalking crimes in charges 3 and 4, which are the ones that have the death penalty attached to it, what they need from counts 1 and 2, they have to meet the federal definition of a crime of violence. And ultimately, the court grants his motion here. They point out that counts 1 and 2 deal with 2 federal stalking laws. And they say the potential maximum of those offenses is life in prison without parole. They point out count 3 is a capital eligible offense in which the government filed a notice to seek the death penalty. And what they could do there. And they said ultimately, under the relevant statutes, are the crimes in counts 1 and 2 crimes of violence. And the court would not be remiss not to note at the outset the apparent absurdity of the inquiry. They point out the defendant is charged with selecting a stranger to be killed based on his employment, carefully planning the killing, including identifying where he was, where and when the selected victim would be most vulnerable, traveling across multiple states, and then gunning him down using a handgun equipped with a silencer. Yes, he did all that. And it says no one can seriously question that this is violent criminal conduct. The judge is just saying, look, it's 100%. It's apparently absurd, but there's a lot to this. This is what you have to do here. You have to have your analysis totally divorced from the conduct, and you have to center on least serious conduct. They point out you have to do this. You have to do this the right way. So they point out they may have concerns about how this is handled, but they point out we're duty bound to follow binding Supreme Court precedent. I'm sure if you put something out there about ICE, I'm sure this judge would change your mind, but we'll see. We'll see. And they point out the analysis in this opinion may strike the average person as tortured and strange and may seem to be contrary to our intuitions about criminal law. But this is the court trying to do the best they can. It's trying to do the best they can here about what's going to happen. But notice they have to point out that count 3 is one of the few murder statutes available under federal law. And they point out most murders are charged under state law and state courts. They point out that federal prosecutors have jurisdiction over only murders that are charged under a handful of crimes. And Section 924 is under the firearms codes under federal law. So this is where they start discussing it. And they point out that crime of violence under federal law is a crime that has an element of use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force against the person or property of another. And here they allege the predicate crimes of violence are the stalking crimes. Now they point out that Luigi says that the question of crimes of violence must be analyzed using a categorical approach. And they talk about what they want to do here. And then the government gets its thing here. And they point out that ultimately, the stalking statute is divisible into 4 distinct crimes. That accordingly, the modified approach must be used, and that neither of the stalking crimes necessarily requires the government to prove the use of force. And that's true. To show stalking, I don't have to prove force at all. And they also point out that the standard for stalking can be committed recklessly, which does not meet the standard. And they put out the penalty element of death resulting. It becomes an issue. And then finally, the elements can be satisfied through thoughts of self-harm. And what they're trying to say here is Luigi could threaten to kill himself, and like a boyfriend or girlfriend could threaten to kill themselves, and that could be stalking behavior. Is that really a crime of violence at that point? No, nobody would ever say it's a crime of violence. But because it's not meant to be, because these are not crimes of violence, counts 3 and 4 must be dismissed. And ultimately, they're talking about a dismissal at the criminal cases here. They talk about what is a crime of violence, though. What is a crime of violence? So crimes of violence are offenses that are a felony, have the element of use, attempted use, or threatened physical force against persons and property. They say, put differently, crimes of violence must be felonies by definition involving force. And they say, although statutory language does not define force, Congress has held that it means violent force. Yes! Which is force capable of causing pain or injury. So I know some people were getting mad when they saw this, but think about it. Does stalking actually cause that? No. No, it does not. Now they point out using the categorical approach. You don't ask whether they used force or violence. They point out the inquiry is excluded and real life facts don't matter. They only have to point out in the categorical approach is whether the federal law at issue always requires the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the attempted use or threatened use of force. Now, they point out this is not clear on its face how you would do this, but they're going to have to get into it, explain what happens here. So when they undertake the categorical approach, they must identify the minimum criminal conduct necessary to meet the elements and then determine whether or not those conducts involve force. And they point out that this is a sort of stress test where you probe the boundaries of the offense to find examples that might fail the definition, but nonetheless satisfy all the elements of the offense. And this could be a problem here of how you handle this. Now they point out, and they get on to the stalking offenses here, and they move on, guys. We're kind of bouncing through this. Karate Cat Mom says the stalking, the victim doesn't know he's being stalked. They actually get to that. Here. But they talk about the interstate stalking. And they point out that just one of these things needs to happen to qualify as a crime of violence. And they point out that, is the statute divisible, and to what degree is it divisible? And you have to say here, though, they talk about, the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, place under surveillance with the intent to do all these things. You have to place, that person in reasonable fear of the death of or serious bodily injury to that person, an immediate family member, their spouse or immediate partner, or your pet, service animal, or emotional support animal. So they point out here, what are the bases for federal jurisdiction? And they point out Section 1 criminalizes stalking through interstate travel. And it says 2 criminalizes it through any electronic communication system involved in interstate commerce. And they point out there are 2 separate crimes, so it's divisible in at least 2 separate crimes of travel stalking and cyber stalking. Travel stalking, chat. That sounds hilarious. We're going to travel stalk somebody. And they point out, aside from the jurisdictional thresholds, they're basically the same thing. So it's... We're going to do a road trip, chat. Where are we going? You said emotional support animal. So any of those animals that people have that are emotional support animals or service animals, or somebody's horse. So, yes, we gang traveling. Oh, you guys are ridiculous here. Now, they point out that you both have to use interstate travel or use interstate communications with the malicious intent toward another person. Now, they point out whether these are the same is also further divisible by the resulting harms, meaning travel stalking, reasonable fear, travel stalking, emotional distress, cyber stalking, reasonable fear, and cyber stalking, emotional distress. And the government's trying to say, look, if the statute is further divisible, emotional distress is the least serious formulation of a crime of violence. Now, they go on, though, further to say the statute is furthermore, we could break it down not only 1 level, 2 level, but even more, we're breaking it down. We're breaking it down even more, chat. So there's reasonable fear and subsection emotional distress define alternative elements. And it says reasonable fear covers any places that the victim anything that places the victim in reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury. Okay, and the emotional distress subsections cover anything that causes, attempts to cause, or would be expected to cause substantial emotional distress. These are 2 elements with distinct requirements, not merely 2 different ways to complete some other. And hold on, chat here. What is... Oh, the U.S. Embassy is telling citizens to leave Iran now. Well, that's important. And chat, I need to go pay the water bill, so give me 1 second here. I'll be right back. Give me 1 minute. All right, chat, we're back. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for bearing with me 1 minute. Water bill, is that code? Yes, I had to go make tinkles. I had to go make a tinkle. Now they point out here that if you reasonably fear death or serious bodily injury, you would also necessarily feel substantial emotional distress. And that makes sense. And then if one alternative is essentially a subset of the other, then that indicates, means rather than elements. They point out that they point out here that the interpretation would make somebody reasonably fear a pointless seclusion, since emotional distress would cover the universe of prohibited harms. And it's very true, because Congress would not adopt two separate clauses for the same work. If they intended everything to be in there, it must be for different reasons. Anna Wall says, "Do not wash your hands." Oh, I didn't use my hands, so that's the way you take care of that. So, the court eventually gets down here to how this all works out, and ultimately here, the court comes down to how you apply things and how this all actually breaks down. And they say this is the big thing here. Neither charge stalking offense as a crime of violence, because any force element can be committed through reckless conduct. And it's hard at that point if it's reckless. They point out that, the travel stalking and cyber stalking fear, these elements are essentially identical with the exception of the different jurisdictional triggering events. One of them is traveling, one of them is cyber stalking. They point out the difference is not material to the crime of violence issue. The court will discuss that later. They point out, though, the first element is that you must travel interstate or use interstate electronic service with the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, or place under surveillance to do that. And it says neither parties, they talk about it. Nobody's disagreeing that these are the means of committing the first elements. And it is. They go through all of this. They keep going on here. And ultimately, the court comes to the point of, if I can commit self-harm, it's not, what is this? Just because you did doesn't mean you're guilty in response to your pee on the toilet seat. No, I don't. The seat's up, guys. I'm all good. I appreciate it. I'll appreciate it. But we're okay. We're okay here, chat. And this goes on here. That while there are other issues that were brought up, like Pam Bondi talking and the improper, in the improper press issues, none of that happens here. None of that, because this is ultimately what kills it right now. So ultimately, they point out this issue here about, you could threaten self-harm. People do that all the time as they're doing this in their relationships. And there's no seat just because it's a drain like the quartering. Well, funny. So, but ultimately, that's what happened here. So, what is the issue here? So they point out that ultimately, what does this lead to? Well, they point out you can't assault, kidnap, or murder yourself. So you can't threaten self-harm. And the court brings that up. And they said that, there is a reality, though, of family violence and intimate partner violence are complicated. And they point out that all this can cause exacerbation on how this actually works. And they point out, if anything, the threats of perpetrators' self-harm is more consistent with the broadest protection for victims. And they point out, because of that, because stalking is not the crime they need, we're going to dismiss the two charges. So whatever Pam Bondi did, that wasn't the major factor at this point. It was not the major factor. And now this is the thing I know you guys are waiting on. The Fulton County Board of Elections. Their ballots and other materials were seized by the FBI. That's right, chat. They were seized by the FBI this week as part of an action to serve a search warrant. And you're like, okay. Well, oh man. This is a bit of an issue here, chat. It's a bit of an issue. There was a motion that was filed to seal some stuff, but some things have been released. Some things have been kind of leaked out there and are available. Now, what does all this turn into? Obviously, Trump says, in 2020, the election was stolen. Brad Raffensperger didn't do his job, and all things that happened there. Those are the two hoes that, what's his name? They got mad at him. Oh, Rudy Giuliani, when he got mad at the mom and the lady for fucking around in the office by themselves. Like, there's all kinds of problems. There's all kinds of problems here, but there is a solution to some things. And then we're going to take a look at here. Stacey says, was 2020 stolen? I don't think so at the end of the day. Do I think that the left took advantage of all of the mail-in ballots not being properly controlled and documented? Yes. So, but in the meantime, there was a document. This is real. And this is the search warrant information that was attached to what they secured. This is out of the federal court in the Northern District of Georgia. And this is interesting, guys. At first I thought nothing was going to happen. Now I can't say that. It's I don't know if this is nothing happens o'clock. So it's in the matter of the search of the premise located at the office of the clerk of court, 5600 Cabelltown Fairburn Road, Fairburn, Georgia. So it says to Special Agent Raymond Evan Hughes, any authorized officer in the United States, you are now going forward to go to the premises located in Attachment A, that you're looking for specific property under Attachment B. They say, which constitutes evidence of the commission of a crime, of a criminal offense of property which should be used as a means of committing a criminal offense, meaning 52 USC 20701 and 20511. And it's over, which the United States District Court has jurisdiction over. This is ultimately signed by the magistrate judge, which they're allowed to do. And this was acceptable. This was acceptable things here. So this is the warrant return, all the stuff. This hasn't been returned yet. But the property to be searched. Guys, remember, a search warrant has to have particularity. A search warrant has to have particularity in where you're going, what you're looking for. You have to be able to articulate those things. And they said where they're going. Okay. Then it says the thing to be seized with particularity. So they want all physical ballots from the 2020 election. They want absentee ballots, advanced voting ballots, provisional ballots. They want emergency ballots. Any ballots that were damaged or destroyed and that were given back to them, like, look, we can't do this one. Duplicated ballots or any other ballot that was used to cast a vote. Basically, if it touched the hand of anybody and, there are marks on it or something's missing or there's chads missing out of it. Yes, they want it all, chat. They want every single bit of it. They want all tabulator tapes for all the machines. So they want all the electronic information that's out there. They want all the documented evidence. They want all ballot images. Remember, because they take those ballots and run them through the scanner. But they want them from the original ballot counts. This is kind of similar to what the DOJ requested out of Minnesota. They want all the voter rolls from Fulton County. It's just, it's not going to work. And they also point out this warrant also authorized a view of electronic storage media, electronically stored information where this is being all served at. And ultimately, this is it. And it's very, it's weird. It's weird to say the least, chat, how this is all set up and how this is all going down. But yes, there is something happening. There is a there. I would think to some extent. There is a there to some level. We just don't know the full extent of it at this point. It is. Hold on one more second, chat. So we are now, they were seizing 11,000 votes to show that Brad Raffensperger was a turncoat. Yeah, I don't know. I think cheating elections should be a capital offense. I agree. There should be a lot of things should be capital offenses. That was one of the things back in the founding. There weren't many felonies because almost every felony was a capital offense. So yes, what about the broken water people? The broke water pipes. Yeah, that's all a problem. It's all a problem. It's all a problem. But I haven't seen anything to say it's been stolen yet. Do I think a lot of funny business went on and how Joe Biden did not win any of the 93 bellwether counties and didn't follow any statistical analysis that we relied on for the past 45 years? Yes. Do I think that's weird? Also, yes. No. So this is bullshit, though. I don't know what else to do about it. You knew they were cheating when they covered the window to count votes. I agree. But they got away with it. So yeah, Kamala just opened a weird fucking website, and I haven't looked at it yet to know what it's about. So, but yeah, just think about this is a document to go after all this stuff. So they aren't just going after boxes; they're going after everything. And a magistrate approved it. So we'll see what this leads to. Just say YouTube prevents me from questioning the outcome of the 2020 election. You could say 2020 was stolen. I just don't there's not enough proof of that right now. There's just not enough proof of that right now. The issue is getting away with is not an explanation of any other crime. No, I understand that. Yeah, I mean, here's the big thing. Even if it's proven that Trump was robbed, what are we gonna say? He's the only president to technically win 3 times. It's not like he's gonna be denied by what's he gonna do? I mean, that's my biggest concern. What's next? What's the next step? Even if it does turn out to be correct, are we gonna hop in a time machine and go take care of this, or what are we gonna do? Oh, I agree, Bella. Yes, the mail-in voting and no voter ID are the massive fucking problems. We're at the massive problems there. We're at the massive problems of this. Vacate everything that happened or buying it. Not happening. You will not get that. Supreme Court will not do that. So, yeah, we stop the stupid mail-in crap is what we do next. Well, that's one thing. There are multiple attacks that have to be made. Multiple attacks. Oh, yeah, hold on one more second. Sorry. All right, there we go. Sorry. I had to get resituated here. The Remedies attack on 4 years to his term. I mean, that would be hilarious, but no. No, don't support that. Do not support that at all. How about we flip Biden's portrait sideways? Well, yeah, or flip it over so it's staring at the wall. So, The remedy is obviously a fourth Trump term. You guys think you mean third? Where's the fourth? If there's a fourth one, where did the third one go? I mean, Count Picula. I mean, I could see that, but I don't see it working. I don't see anybody agreeing to that. There's already too many cucks on the right who wouldn't allow it. I'm just telling you what ultimately is going to happen there. Yes, I would point out that we need to figure this out. We need to figure out how many people are doing this and how mad they are screwing with the election on top of everything else that they're doing. Could you remove any of the congressmen and state legislators who were also falsely elected? Well, no, because I don't know if you're going to be able to prove all that. That would be really tough. That would be really tough. Yes, and Luke is correct. The 3-time the rating defending undisputed heavyweight champion of the White House. I rubbed my eyes like a tired toddler. Thank you. That's where Franco comes in. Well, your lips to God's ears, man. Your lips to God's ears. That's all I can say. Yes, pause elections like Zelensky. Correct. That is correct, chat. So there we go. That is it. Like I said, guys, I'm not holding out hope, but it'll be interesting to see what happens out there. What happens next? It's like the song goes, what comes next? Soon you'll see. Let's see. 3 terms, 3 scoops, 3 wives. Oh. So chat, we are all caught up. With that said, thank you guys all for being here tonight. 327 people over here on YouTube, 140 over on Twitter. I know most of the Twitter ones are ghosts, but still, thank you, Elon, for making me feel important. Guys, we are going to head over to Locals, potentiallycriminal.locals.com for the after show. We do 2 live shows a week over there on Locals, Monday nights and then Thursday nights. The Monday night show starts at 9. The Thursday night show starts right after this one. And we get to talk about all kinds of stuff you can't talk about here. You know, you can have the guns out. You can do whatever you want over there. And we just go and hang out. But those are for supporters only. You could support $3 a month. You buy 10 months, you get 2 months free. With those, you get access to all the live shows. And that will include tonight. So let me see if I missed anything. Use the promo code ICESTORM. And all, I believe, all lowercase for 1 free month to try it out. It's totally fun. Let me see. I think it should work now. You guys should be able to try it. So, EDW says, "What time does your beard depart?" I don't know. What time does your face depart? Your butt. Luke says, "I sent you a quick PDF of the Christchurch man if you want to gander at it." Yes, I will take a look at that here. That might give us something to look at here coming up as another thing. Ag says, "Welp, I'll be writing Trump on my mail and the ballots." Oh. Though if you want to get edgy, I can't join because that'd be potentially criminal. Well, yes, it's still illegal in New Zealand to watch the Christchurch shooting too. So it's definitely something there. Yeah. So guys, that is it for tonight. I am sorry. Like I said, it's been a big day. I'm sorry. We were kind of coming in the end here, crashing a little bit. Went out in the real world, we scored some dubs. We scored dubs today, and I know that doesn't matter to you, but it matters to me, and that's really what I want. Like, you know, I love this, but I love doing this, but it's you know, my job is going out there putting my fucking cleats on. So, and we got some ass whooping today. You think the manifesto is also objectionable material? Well, yes, you guys have a national censor. You guys can't watch it. Lucas says, "Congrats on your W, Sean. Always a great feeling. Sadly, though, not as many as I want. Not as many as I deserve. More importantly, your clients deserve it, and they don't get them." There's this one lawyer I was following on Twitter. It's she's somewhere down in the South. She's like won 7 jury trials since October, and it's like that's a fucking awesome hot streak, and also good for her clients too. So Yeah. So with that said, chat, we are going to end here, and I will see you guys over on Locals. Tomorrow night, programming note. I am going to be preoccupied. I'm going to be engaged since I'm doing another round of I'm going to do some more mock trial judging tomorrow. I'll be like there's a round starting like at 1. So I don't even know if I might just poke my head on laid back law for a minute. And then from there, I probably won't even be able to do it actually. And then from there, it starts again at 5:00 or 5:30. I don't know how long it's going to go, but I don't expect me till probably about like 9:30, 10 o'clock. We are not going to do Russell Greer or anything tomorrow night. We're probably going to be working on these bad boys tomorrow. Just because I don't have any time and I don't really know how long it's going to go tomorrow. So don't want to plan. Don't worry. I'm sure Russell will let us know about all his tranny members and all his family. We'll be doing that. So, yeah, the last Greer stream was fire. It was hilarious. But now we find out he's living with like trannies and all kinds of weird stuff is going on as he gets evicted. So, when is the Bonbon episode? I don't know. We'll have to get Bonbon. I'll probably do Bonbon tomorrow night. We'll hang out with Bonbon. Yeah. So that'll be the game plan for tomorrow night, guys. We'll probably just do model stuff because I won't have time. So with that said, chat, I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Unless you're like scamming people with ransom notes. Don't do any of that. Don't do any of the shit we talked about tonight, chat. And don't be like those guys trying to cheat in the ski jump by pumping hyaluronic acid into their cocks. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't cheat. Don't cheat, chat. Good night, you guys.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy that hated you?